Shall we roll? Okay, good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting of the City of Laguna Beach Planning Commission meeting of August 6th to order at this time. Can we now have a roll call?
Commissioner Sadler,
Here.
Commissioner Whiten.
Yes.
Commissioner Dubin.
Here.
Chair Pro Tem Goldman.
Here.
Chair Kellenberg.
Here. Okay, thank you. We have a quorum and can now proceed with the meeting. We're going to start with public communications. This is a moment when anybody would like to address the Planning Commission on any item that is not on the agenda tonight. Is there anybody that would like to do so? Seeing none, I now close public communications and move to the consent calendar. We have 2 items on the consent calendar tonight. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to pull either of the items off the consent calendar? Is there anybody on the commission that would like to pull an item off the consent calendar? Do we have a motion to approve the consent calendar?
So moved.
Second,
Second.
roll call.
Commissioner Sadler,
Yes.
Commissioner Whiten,
Yes.
Commissioner Dubin.
Yes.
Chair Pro Tem Goldman.
Yes.
Chair Kellenberg.
Yes. Okay, on that basis, we'll move ahead to our first public hearing item, item 5.1, conditional use permit 25-1369. Jessica, you're up. Are there any disclosures on the site?
No. I went to the site. I didn't meet with anybody. I just walked around.
Likewise.
I visited this site through Google Earth.
Yeah.
Okay, Jessica, if you're ready.
Good evening, Chair and members of the Planning Commission. My name is Jessica Mendoza, Assistant Planner. Item 5.1 is a request for approval of a conditional use permit to operate a short-term lodging unit at the existing single-family residence at 31719 Coast Highway. The property is located in the SLV South Laguna Village Commercial Zone, and it is improved with a 1,944 square foot single family residence with an attached garage. The property does front Coast Highway and also backs into an alley going off of Seacliff Drive. The property is characterized by its highway abutting location and also abutting alley to the residence. The short-term lodging application is permitted in the SLV zone, subject to approval of today's conditional use permit, and is limited to a maximum of 2 persons per bedroom. The applicant requests to operate the existing 2 bedrooms at the single-family residence as a short-term rental, allowing a maximum of 4 overnight guests and up to 8 guests during daytime hours. In the slide before you, we have the front-facing part of the property off Coast Highway and also the entrance through the alley from Seacliff Drive. The property does have 2 covered parking spaces provided on the site in the attached garage, access from the alley from Seacliff Drive. The property can be accessed also from the front-facing pedestrian access. And both the vehicular access as shown in the slide before you. The applicant submitted floor plan shows that the residence includes the 2-car garage with bedrooms located both at the lower and upper level. The layout also features a living area, kitchen, dining area, and also bathrooms. Staff has received public commentary with concerns from neighboring property owners for this short-term lodging application. Part of these concerns relate to parking and traffic due to narrow street and limited parking in the existing location, privacy and safety concerns about loss of privacy, increased trespassing onto private property, and beach access, and generally safety. There was also a comment relating to concerns for the short-term lodging having a negative impact to the nearby property values. And also additional comments relating to the conditions provided onto the resolutions, ensuring that the applicant does have the resolution posted or contact information at all times on the property, and clarity to the conditions proposed in the resolution. Lastly, some final comments relating to safety and noise, and also increased foot traffic in the location. Staff does recommend, staff overall found the proposed short-term lodging application to be consistent with the municipal code and recommends that the Planning Commission today by motion adopt the attached resolution and approving conditional use permit 25-1369 and the findings set action exempt from CEQA. This concludes my presentation and I am available for any questions.
Thank you. Are there questions from the commission? Going to start right from,
Why are we hearing this? If this is permitted by code, because I'm not really sure what the code is with regard to short-term lodging. So maybe I have two questions. What exactly is the code with regard to short-term lodging? And if this complies with that code, what's the reason that we have the hearing?
Per the short-term lodging municipal code, it does state that the this application, because it is in the SLV zone, it has to be presented with a conditional use permit and also presented in front of the Planning Commission for review.
Okay, so does the code allow somebody as right to do this? So for example, anybody who has a home could do this and they just come and get a conditional use permit?
Thank you for the opportunity to clarify that point. That was one of the public comments that staff had received. There is no zone that allows for short-term lodging by right. It's generally allowed with either an administrative use permit or a conditional use permit in the city's commercial and mixed-use zones, and it is not permissible within residential zones, although we do have some short-term lodging units that have been grandfathered in under prior regulations.
Okay, so this, what makes this one special, for lack of a better word, or applicable, is because it's in a commercial zone, not in a residential zone.
Correct. And that makes the applicant eligible to apply for a conditional use permit, but it's discretionary, subject to the Planning Commission's review and approval.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and some other locations where it's allowed through the administrative use permit, that would be handled administratively, wouldn't necessarily come before the Planning Commission, but whoever's the Director of Community Development, who's ever making that determination, if they're holding that do they hold an administrative meeting? And if there's significant opposition to that, then does it get kicked to the Planning Commission, or is that up to the discretion of the director?
It is an administrative hearing process. I don't believe the code provides an opportunity to refer an AUP up to the Planning Commission. We start by soliciting interest in holding an administrative hearing. If no such request is made within the allotted period of time, the application is deemed approved. Otherwise, we do hold a director level hearing. That decision could be appealed to the City Council.
Okay, thanks. And Jessica, you mentioned these public comments that were received probably after the staff report was initially prepared. Did any of those public comments make you reevaluate or change your recommendation to us tonight?
No, because it's permitted by right, because it is under SLV zoning district. As long as the application is approved under a conditional use permit, this application could be deemed approved. But with the public comments, they were taken in consideration. They were evaluated during the time just in preparation of the hearing in case there's additional questions to answer and also questions that I can defer to the applicant as well.
Okay. And somebody had mentioned that the fact that Seacliff Drive is a private street. Does that make any difference to this application, whether or not this access is being taken potentially from this alleyway and whether or not it's a private street or a public street? Or Anthony, do you know, is it a private street? I'm not even sure if
I
that.
appreciate the question. It is private. Now that didn't persuade staff one way or the other, and I can explain the reasons why. The short-term lodging ordinance, as it's currently constructed, allows for continuation of non-conforming parking conditions. So in the hypothetical where there was no on-site and off-street parking, the code says that that will not be a determinative factor in the decision-making. Here, there is legal access to two on-site parking spaces within the existing garage.
Okay. And another comment that was mentioned was that along, I believe it's along Coast Highway, that the sidewalk along there is relatively narrow. And they were saying that the hedge along there was kind of encroaching into the sidewalk space. Is that a completely separate issue? I mean, would it be inappropriate for us to tie some new resolution into this approval, citing, saying that something about trimming, keeping the hedge trimmed? And then additionally, that hedge is really pretty tall. Is that existing hedge in any way non-code compliant right now? The fact that it's in, I would assume, a front yard setback, and can it legally be as high as it is?
Yeah, I'll start by answering the initial question. I don't know that a condition of approval would relate to the Planning Commission's assessment as to whether or not the proposed application, the commission can make the required findings to either grant or deny the conditional use permit application before you. The applicant may not have been aware that there was this resident concern. At this point, the applicant would have read the commentary and may be willing to trim back the hedge. If there is a code enforcement request that's filed with the city, we could certainly look into whether there is a code violation with the encroachment into it would be the state right-of-way. And regarding the height of the hedge, the municipal code says that there is no height limit unless the city, through its hedge height claim process, establishes a maximum height for that hedge.
Okay, great. Thank you. That's just my questions.
I have a question related to what I think is a contradiction, but maybe you can clarify for me, between policy 6.2 and policy 6.6. 6.2 says, preserve and encourage the stock of affordable motel and hotel rooms available for short-term visitors. Policy 6.6 says, promote and preserve an increase in the stock of residential units. I don't know how we can make both of those findings simultaneous, but, could you clarify that? Why are those both policies here? And should policy 6.6 be in there?
I was thinking the same thing. The only thing that, because at first I thought I read that 6.6 saying increase the stock of residential units in the city, but it's saying residential rental units. So I don't know if that creates a conflict or not.
Yeah, and one other.
It is a rental unit. It's short-term rental, but
Short-term, that there's a definition.
Yeah, and to that, because one other question I didn't ask, which I was going to wait till everyone asked to be polite, but I guess I won't be polite. Is there a minimum or a maximum length of stay at the property? Meaning, can somebody stay as little as 1 day, as much as multiple months, and everything in between?
In the application, the applicant represented that it would be a minimum 2-night stay rental.
Okay, so it could be 2 nights to months
Well, correct. but
is what's
typically-
being asked.
Typically, short-term lodging is 30 days or less. That's kind of the line of demarcation between
Could be-
short-term and then,
Could they do more? I mean, could he, if he found a tenant for 2 months, could he rent it normally? I assume there's no restriction on that.
That is correct. That's a good point. That would just be considered a normal residential use of the property. Should this application be granted and the applicant starts making use of the privileges of this permit, the residential use doesn't go away. It just allows the applicant the ability to, from time to time or in a continuous basis, use the property for short-term lodging purposes.
And then if you could remind me, or remind us, what is under rental, residential, which is his right today, the property owner's right today, what is the minimum stay that he can have? Is it 30 days?
Correct. It'd be a minimum month-to-month rental.
Okay, thanks.
So this gives, the short term gives him maximum flexibility, including just
Gives him both.
single night stays.
In this case, because the applicant indicated that it would be a minimum 2-night stay, and the conditions of approval include a condition that the application is made a part of this approval, in effect, the Planning Commission would be authorizing short-term rentals between 2 nights up to a 30-day stay.
Yeah, I still don't see why we have policy 6.6 in here.
Yeah.
Shouldn't that be removed? Because it's not a residential unit, it's a short-term rental.
I think that's a very fair point.
Okay. I think that's my, just a clarification. I walked around, I couldn't find well, there was a gate. I felt like I was in, Alice in Wonderland on the PCH side, but it was very short and you had to duck down to go in. There was certainly a security camera there, but certainly didn't look like an entrance to me. So that's a question we'll ask when the moment comes. But also, the third space is under the overhang outside the garage. Is that the third space?
So on the resolution, we actually have a condition that it's going to be applied for the 2 parking spaces. The additional parking, I'd say the third space, that would probably be something we can discuss or condition. I don't know.
But it's not required.
The city recognizes 2 on-site parking spaces, and there is a reference to 2 spaces being provided for the short-term lodging use in your resolution.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Well, since you're talking about that, is that the garage or the spaces outside the garage?
Thanks for the question. It would be the 2 covered enclosed garage spaces on the property.
Because the staff report, when there is a picture of the garage and it's being used for storage currently. So that would need to be changed.
Correct.
Okay. So, so I just have some clarification questions, I guess, on the conditional use permit findings number 3. How does staff define no adverse effects on surrounding properties? I mean, how do you make that determination? I'm just curious because it seems like a big thing to make a decision on. I'm kind of curious how staff goes about making that decision.
Since it's a bit of a philosophical question, I'll make an attempt at providing a response. The finding is a no substantial adverse effect, and that is subjective. I will say that when staff is analyzing a project and contemplating what its recommendation of the commission might be, we do, to a pretty large extent, lean on prior decisions. If there have been comparable projects that have been presented to the Planning Commission, the Planning Commission has approved a number of short-term lodging unit applications. Now, each application is considered case by case. Here we do look at the property, how it's situated, as well as how surrounding properties are situated. We look at outdoor activity spaces, how they relate both visually and based on proximity to surrounding properties, and how sensitive are those abutting uses. I will say that the Planning Commission has approved permits for short-term lodging that do include elevated outdoor activity spaces such as decks. So all that factors into the staff recommendation. And we also consider conditions of approval in an attempt to make the finding.
Okay. And this kind of goes along the same line. Policy 6.1 talks about resident serving, and I'm just curious, because I think primarily this is going to be used for non-residents, wanting to have a short stay at a non-traditional hotel or motel. And so how is that policy affecting, the CUP findings, resident serving? How is it resident serving?
Yeah, thanks. And I'll take the responsibility for that policy's inclusion in the staff analysis. I don't think there's a conflict with this application and that policy, but I also don't believe that the application supports the advancement of that policy. It really has no impact on resident serving businesses. Today, the property is a single family residential use.
Right.
My recommendation would be that that policy, that's the land use element policy 6.1, be struck from your resolution should you approve the application.
Yeah, it just didn't feel like it was applicable to this particular application. So, and I got a couple more sort of along the same line, and this goes back to 6.2 about affordability. $1,100 a night is pretty substantial. Probably not real affordable for most folks. So I'm again questioning, why the policies are applied to this particular application.
In general, I don't know that there are a lot of policies in the city's land use element or the general plan more broadly that really tie in with this application. My recommendation to the Planning Commission might be to cite specifically goal 4, which is listed in your staff report here, which states recognizing that Laguna Beach is a worldwide visitor destination, enhance the visitor experience while maximizing protection of the community's coastal and other natural resources. I think that's probably the best element of the city's general plan that does have a direct tie-in with this application.
Okay.
Although this use doesn't have an impact on existing motel hotel rooms, it also isn't necessarily advancing the implementation of that policy.
Okay, because they're placed in the staff report as justification, and I just needed to try to get some clarity on, why they're even part of the staff report. So my last question has to do with enforcement, and it's on page 8 of the resolution, number 17 and number 20. These are things that, one of them deals with day visitors having to leave by 10 o'clock at night or something like that. I can't remember what the other one is, but it's another one of those, who's going to enforce these things, and because they're kind of absurd. It sort of goes back to when we were dealing with retail spaces and going, you can only have a jewelry cabinet that's 2 feet long and 6 feet, whatever. It's sort of the same thing, like who's actually going to monitor something like that. It's almost like a non-enforceable enforcement issue.
Yeah, that's a fair point, and certainly it could be difficult to enforce. The reason why that condition of approval is in your draft resolution is that it's a standard condition that's actually part of the city's municipal code
Okay.
for short-term lodging applications.
Okay, that's all I have. I just wanted some clarity on some of those things.
I have a follow-up on the impact, which was finding 3, I think. No impact on the abutting properties. If the rentals are turned over every 2 days, say 15 times a month, that means that the cleaning crews are coming in 15 times a month. And that's a lot more activity than is currently happening there with that building as a rental unit. Seems to me that would have an impact on the abutting properties. And where are they going to park? Where are the cleaners going to park? There are no spots for the cleaners to park.
Yeah, appreciate those questions. It really is the planning commission's discretion to determine if there is in the specific language is substantial adverse effect based on the facts of this case. My understanding would be, and we could perhaps pose this question of the applicant during the public hearing portion of this hearing, is that during the times when the cleaning crew is on the premises, there will not also be any short-term lodging guests on the property, and therefore they would be able to park their vehicle inside the garage.
Yeah, that's another enforcement challenge.
But we're good at it.
Yeah.
But there is an informal parking space along the alley underneath the overhang, as shown in the photograph in the application.
That is what the applicant included as part of their photo exhibits. I don't believe that the city recognizes that as a parking space.
Therefore, why it's informal, but it does exist outside the travel lane of the alley.
It is outside of the travel lane and it's paved.
Yeah,
And so
I'm just saying that
a
the
vehicle
worst
could-
case is they could park there and not be in anybody's way. And I mean, just an observation.
Yeah, but you can't have it both ways because the applicant's photos also include the garage with all
Well, no,
kinds
that's
of
a different issue,
stuff in
which I would bring up.
garage.
That's a different issue. Yeah, I'm assuming that, I mean, we've already been over this, but I'm assuming that we can request or require the garage to be usable for automobiles as part of this approval. And I guess I also have another question about the hedge. I mean, isn't there a nexus between increasing pedestrian utilization from this unit and requiring the sidewalk to be usable? You can think about that. And so my other question for staff is, there's an outdoor, nobody's really talked about, it appears to be an outdoor deck that hangs out over the alley that would be, and there's these big heavy hedges in the back along the alley, but they've been trimmed down to allow, it appears to be ocean views from the deck. And also that would allow sound from the outdoor space to impact the residential unit on the other side of the alley. If there's a party or late night, activity on the deck, did staff take that into consideration and have any ideas on how to manage the impact of sound of 8 people till 10 o'clock, at night, if that does get enforced?
Yeah, well, we can refer to condition number 20, which states that the applicant or those that are occupying the space are not to play amplified music with any outdoor space, nor any audible type sound in any condition between the hours of 10 p.m. and 10 a.m. But I understand your question about who would be, I guess, like monitoring that.
And I think the standard answer is that it's up to the adjacent neighbor to call the police and complain, and the police come out and see if there's a problem and do a sound measurement or do whatever they do, which I know we have kind of limited faith in all of that, but that's the technical answer, right?
Correct, Chair. But I mean, the one thing that I would add here is that it is simply, there wouldn't need to be a test or any type of, decibel meter. It simply says audible from the usable area of any adjacent residence.
Okay, so it's
So-
pretty
right.
restrictive,
Yeah.
pretty restrictive.
And so then what is the consequence for that violation?
It would be potentially a code enforcement action. The application or the permit, I should say, assuming it's approved, could be referred back to the Planning Commission. Planning Commission could revise or add conditions of approval or even revoke the permit. With short-term lodging approvals, there is a 3-year term limit. And so on the basis of the code enforcement record, if a new application is made upon the expiration of this conditional use permit, the Planning Commission could weigh that evidence and consider that in its decision-making.
Do we have a lot of complaints on short-term lodging, noise from short-term lodging?
Not that I have been personally involved with. And so my impression is that we haven't had a lot of issues. Now, that is in contrast with what has been the case in years past. And that is what led to the current ordinance. My impression is that the current regulations seem to, on the whole, work quite well.
Thank you.
I just want to touch before we go to the applicant on the hedge for a second, because I did go down there and walk the property and obviously walked on the sidewalk on Coast Highway, and the sidewalk's only about 3 feet and the hedge itself is encroaching pretty seriously on that. And there was some people, when I was walking back to my car, basically some of us either had to scrunch into the hedge or somebody had to walk into the street. So there is kind of a public safety issue involved there. And I know it's not necessarily part of this application, but it should be something that's dealt with, because there is a public safety component to that hedge encroaching that much on a narrow sidewalk on Coast Highway. So something to think about on staff level.
The staff report says that the 8 people are allowed during daylight hours, whereas you note that in the resolution, it says till 10 o'clock at night. Those two don't seem to be aligned.
And I think that's a very fair point, Chair. The language in the staff report and resolution is pulled from the municipal code. It references maximum daytime guests, and it goes on to say those daytime hours are 7 a.m. to 10 p.m.
Okay, that just wasn't included in the staff report. There's 2 bedrooms and 2 people per bedroom, so there's really 4 people are the maximum that can stay there. Where does the 8 people come from? Why isn't it just 4? Especially if it's a sensitive situation where there's adjacent neighbors, could the 8 number be modified to 4?
It could be imposed as a condition of approval if necessary to make the required findings of this conditional use permit application. But the number comes from the municipal code.
It's the boiler.
There is an assumption that reasonable, in a typical scenario, appropriate maximum occupancy would be 2 overnight occupants per room and an additional 2 occupants per room for the daytime hours, 7 a.m. to 10 p.m.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for staff? Okay, we'll open the public hearing. If the applicant would like to have a presentation or address any of the issues that you've been patiently overhearing.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jason Longo. I'm the property owner and applicant. There's a lot of things to address. I'm gonna start with the hedge. It's on schedule to actually trim the hedge. He's already paid to do it. He apologized. He was supposed to do it. He's doing it on the 23rd. It's already been scheduled. He's a really good gardener. He always takes care of that hedge for me. And if I need to up the amount I do it twice a year. And it's been on schedule for years. I've actually personally lived as my primary residence since 2018. I've only recently moved out of it because it's closer to work up in Costa Mesa. And we've been there. I love the property. It was actually not even, I'll give you a little context of it. It's just basically we didn't even want to do short term. We were like, oh, we'll do it, but we've been sandwiched in between 2 restaurants, and you can see they're developing those restaurants, and it's just been lots of construction, and quality of life has gone significantly down considering Tiamo's. Again, you guys all know about the Tiamo's project and what's happening there. So we're like, this is a perfect thing to do short term. We're in between that area. I think it makes the area a perfect fit because we're between 2 restaurants. There's gonna be lots of commotion. So we're like, okay, it's probably good. It'd be hard for someone, a long-term tenant. If we moved out, we like it because I'm younger. I think it's perfect, vibrant spot for me because I just walked all the restaurants. But we just thought it was a perfect spot. And we would think it'd be not that impactful to the neighbors. Lee, which owns the property adjacent to mine, which we share the easement. He owns those properties. I have a good relationship with him. I told him all about it. He was okay with it. Same thing. I don't want noise complaints. I'd be the same way. Like if it becomes a nuisance, I'm going to go straight to long-term because I'm in the same boat as you guys. I don't want it to be a nuisance to the community. I have good relationships in that community. I'm kind of on the same page with that stuff. What were the other topics we have? The trash, we have a little side yard that locks so we can put the trash so you can't see the trash cans. The parking down there hasn't been an issue. I see what you guys are saying with that. I'm curious about the parking too when the restaurant comes online. The new pizza, I forgot, it's Truly's is going up.
Right.
That one, we'll see what the commotion of what that puts in the area because I thought it was gonna be something else because I remember it was gonna be a fire station and then it kind of turned into a whole thing. So I'm curious about the parking too, but we do always have the spot right in front of the building that's usually not that taken. I've lived there for my whole life. I've always got parking there. I come home from work, I get my parking there. The only time it's ever impacted is during the summer months. It starts getting impacted, but it's only during when the beach is being used. Parking gets a little congested because people start parking there. And then now that the other restaurants, so I think parking shouldn't be an issue. I think what were the other big complaints or the concerns?
The fact that your garages are,
Oh.
your garages are currently not usable. for
When I
parking.
took that photo, that was before I pulled everything out. It's completely empty. Like, so it's completely gutted, professionally cleaned. There's nothing in there. So that was just an old photo when I pulled the permit and sent her the photos.
We always see those things and get all fired up over it. So
Yeah, it is completely empty. That is totally empty. So I can update the photo and resend it, or when they do the inspection, they'll see it's completely
no
empty.
problem.
So that's just an old photo.
So there was in the correspondence, there was a note, we haven't talked about it yet, that evidently there's some private access from some of the adjacent residents down to the beach. And there's a concern that that private access would be used by your residents. Is that the situation? You know, the neighborhood, is that, how is that working?
I see what they're saying there, but there would be no, if you went there, you'd realize that you'd walk the neighborhood and leave because you don't have access to the beach. It's locked. So you wouldn't be able to access
So
it.
you walk down to the street and access.
You could, it's like my easement is with Lee and it's not really the private community. They have their road down that way, but there's no gate. So it's pretty much a public road that's a private community. If someone was to say, look for beach access, which I was going to give really good directions on exactly how to walk it. I was going to give a map and everything. If they did walk down there, they have access to the beach, but they don't have access if you don't have the key. So there's a private key to go down to Table Rock.
And you as a resident there don't have access to that gate. That gate is not for
I
you.
did because I was friends with the neighborhood, but I'm not going to give them the key.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
But, okay. And the only reason you have it is it's
Because
their
I've
right
been
and
there
you're
for 8
freeing it.
years. I'm friends with
Okay.
everybody. We've walked our dogs and have a long-term relationship with everyone down there. But I would not give access to that at all. I would not want them to. They would have to walk all the way around to go to Table Rock if they were trying to get beach access.
I have a question. So you said you've moved out. So are you permanently living not in this house?
Officially I'm out of the house.
Okay. And
Yeah.
and if this were not approved tonight, then would you try to rent it on a month-to-month basis instead?
Yes, I would just go month to month on it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I was already in that process because I think I applied this for like a year and a half ago. So it was already on the market. So it's, I think it'd be what I was going to do. It's my fiance's Native Hawaiian and we were going to do like a Hawaiian theme and stick to the community and try to make it like artistic. We read the zoning. We're like, oh, we'll make an artistic thing. We'll make it, maybe put like some of our art on the walls and maybe make it like more of an artistic experience for the community is what we were like envisioning about the property. So I think it's a big fit and I think it'd be good for the community.
Is it? Have you found how long have you been not living there? More than a year?
I think it's like over 8 months. Yeah.
Yeah. And how long have you been trying to rent it month to month while you've been waiting for this?
Only like 3 months.
Oh, and is it a detriment? Do people come and look and say, I don't want to be by these restaurants and construction, or it just wasn't renting?
No, there's been interest. There's been people just like kind of lowballing, or it's been mixed because they're not the building's not connected. So you have like downstairs and upstairs, and it's kind of hard it's in a weird spot where it doesn't fit for a family that well because it's only a 1-bedroom upstairs. So it's kind of a like kind of like the avatar of who would rent it is limited.
Those are like 2 units. Like you
It
say,
would-
there's no stairway
Yeah,
connection.
there's no stairway, and it has like a weird lower roof, so it's kind of a weird, funky old beach house.
Hmm.
So that's why I think it's good for just being a short term than a
Well,
long.
how do you access the top level?
The top level, you come in through that gate that's in the photo, and then there's stairs up to the top level.
From the Coast Highway side?
Coast Highway side, you can come in, and from the back side. So there's a side,
There's the side,
way,
yeah.
and that connects.
And it's not connected to the rest of the house.
The downstairs.
The-
You have no, like, you have to go outside and go back upstairs. So there's no like interior stairway.
Okay.
Mm.
Yeah.
Have you talked, your adjacent neighbors on the alley? Have you had any reaction from them?
I met I met her recently. She was really nice, and she was okay with it. And we talked about putting a nice hedge because she likes plants too. So she liked that. I'm really over, like, have all the plants. So she wants to take that, and we were talking about making it nice, a bigger hedge between us.
No, I was thinking if you're in the alley, let's say, and your house is on the left, so you're facing south,
Mhm.
straight ahead of you is a gate, and there's a private residence back there.
Yeah, that's Lee's. Lee
And
is,
so he knows what's going on.
he totally knows. He called me right when I put it up. We have a good relationship.
Okay.
We've talked about basically pitching in together to fix the easement because the easement's kind of run down. So
Uh-huh.
we're trying to figure out what responsibility that is between Seacliff, me, or who all pitches in to fix the road because the road's getting kind of deteriorated in my back alley. So we were talking about that, but yeah, we have a good relationship. We use totally open communication. He gave my phone number to John, which is like the head of, I think, Seacliff. So he hasn't called me, but he told him about it, and they're open for it.
So, and then the property that is immediately across the alley from you also supports
Lee.
what you're doing.
Yeah,
Okay.
also Lee's. He owns both those.
Yeah. And so do you know who it is who's objecting? Did
I-
you see the letters?
I,
that
I
were-
saw the letters. I don't know exactly that address, who's objecting.
Okay.
It's redacted.
Yes,
yeah,
everything's
redacted.
It's
redacted.
kind of new.
Yeah.
I haven't seen these redactions before. It's kind of-
I will say I did like saying put the plaque up. I would want to put a plaque up and put my number saying it's either managed by me or putting a phone number who's going to be my contact for the property. I actually like that one. I kind of agreed on that
I
one.
think it's a requirement, yeah.
Yeah.
So where do you live?
I live up in Newport now.
So I think one of the requirements, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that there needs to be a local contact in case things go awry. What is the definition of a local contact, Anthony or Patrick?
I believe that you have to respond within 60 minutes.
Yeah.
So 60 minutes?
I mean, that's the maximum. It's
So I could be in Garden Grove and be the,
depending on the traffic.
okay.
Application.
Are you, so that it really is 2 units then?
Yeah,
And are you planning on renting it as 2 separate units or as 1 unit with 2 bedrooms?
One bed, just the whole house. I'm not going to do separate.
And is that clear in the application that this is a single unit, not 2 separate units that could have 2 separate parties coming at?
Yes, that is clear from staff's point of view, and the city only recognizes a legal single-family dwelling on the property.
And
there's
the
only one
and the
kitchen.
rules that have been identified of no outdoor music, no more than 8 people, no more than 4 after 10 o'clock, all those rules, it's required that they be clearly posted in the unit. That goes without saying, I guess.
That is correct.
And you're agreeing to do that.
Oh yeah, I like to the comments too. I was going to put like a fee if they did that because it's going to cause problems. So I was going to put like some type of warning.
Okay.
One of the, whoever wrote this long letter that was redacted, so it sort of becomes anonymous.
Yeah.
But they made a claim that the distance between the upper level of your property and the one directly adjacent across the alley was only 10 feet. And I actually went down there and took a tape measure, and it's more like 13 feet. So I just wanted that on the public record so that whoever sent that letter understands that they were sort of trying to lean it towards
Well,
what they felt was
the the Google Earth measurement from building to building is 30 feet.
Yeah, I know, because the house on the other side of the hedge
Set back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
But I mean, it's still, 30 feet is still pretty close. But that's why I brought up my question about
Yeah.
the outdoor space. But
anyways. Oh,
any other further questions for the applicant? Okay, I'll close the public hearing for the applicant and open the public hearing for the multitude of visitors tonight in the room. Would anybody like to come up and ask questions? Make a statement? Seeing none, I close the public hearing and open it up to the Planning Commission for comment and discussion.
I'll go. You know, I think this is well suited for this type of use. There is commercial properties on both sides of it, so it's you know, as you stated, it's probably a little difficult for you know, to have a long-term person there. I don't really see anything. It's kind of interesting to me that the two letters we received, that none of those people are here to comment. So, and because they were both anonymous, it's sort of, in my mind, sort of makes them irrelevant. I think.
And so I do just want to jump in there. So, you know, the redaction of just the email address was meant as a privacy concern.
I
We didn't want
understand that.
And totally understand that this time, but so moving forward, the name of the public commenter will not be redacted. And if you would like, I believe we have unredacted copies. So I just want to be sure that the commenter, if he or she is listening, the letter was obviously read by all 5 members, considered, and that you were not penalized or short shrifted in any way because of staff.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just, well, I guess I kind of did say it, so. No, I understand that, and I know that was not something that will happen in the future, but I just I did want to address the one comment about the distance in the alley, because you know, it's not really accurate. But we did, you know, everybody did review this application, I think, pretty clearly, and looked at the policies and findings that govern these types of rentals. And for myself, I think you know, with the garage being cleared out, that was sort of one of my main concerns. You know, is that there was actual 2 cars worth of parking that ran with the property. So, and I know people do park under the overhang of the second. So I guess that is an option, although it's not included in this application. But so I can make the coastal development permit and CEQA exemptions, because there's no additions to the building and there's no environmental impact that I can see. So I will be approving the application.
I concur. I can support it. It seems like the right use here rather than long-term rental. I used to live in that neighborhood, and it's very busy in the summer and very noisy. And even once the construction dies down around you, that's going to be a busy, truly pizza situation. So it's perfect for short-term lodging. Not to repeat everything that Commissioner Dubin said, but I would make the same points. And then there were 2 policies that we were going to strike, policy 6.1 and 6.6. I support the project.
I do as well. And I think, you know, some of the comments that were being made during our discussion are just comments that are in general about all short-term lodging, right? You know, and it's nothing specific about this particular one. It's these bigger questions. Does short-term lodging create excessive use more than a regular single-family residential use would be? Probably, but it's hard to quantify that, you know, with, you know, people coming and going every 2 days. Yeah, there's going to be activity with cleaners coming, but, you know, people could, you know, living in a single family home, go in and out of their property, you know, a dozen times a day. They could have all sorts of delivery people coming. They could have a maid coming to their home every single day, you know. So some of that impact, you know, it's just going to be just about short-term lodging in general. But what the city has done to create, you know, the short-term lodging ordinance, I think was reasonable to try to limit the zones in which it was felt it was appropriate. Trying to keep it more in the commercial zones, keeping it out of the regular residential zones. And, you know, particularly, you know, we have to, just, I think, mainly focus on that significant adverse impact portion of it. And when we have these projects that are located right on Coast Highway, where there's, you know, already significant background ambient noise, where it's in between a couple of commercial properties and not, you know, necessarily immediately adjacent to other residential properties, I think it weighs this one, you know, more in favor than others. But I can make the appropriate findings for the conditional use permit, and also agree with staff's recommendation regarding the CEQA exemptions and that as well. So I'm willing to support it.
I actually struggled to make the findings. I recognize that this is a commercial location technically. I recognize that it's between two buildings and it impacts your ability to rent it like a residential property, but I think it acts like a residential property. I think, and if it were a residential property, we wouldn't grant the short-term lodging. So I don't think I will support it because I do think I can't make the findings on the basis that I do think it will have negative impact to the abutting residential, because I think this looks like a duck, quacks like a duck to duck in terms of it being a residence, in my opinion, as it pertains to the other residences there. So I struggle with the findings.
I'm going to be supportive. I think the commissioner's comment does raise a question we have in the past. If we think there's a property like this that has extra sensitivity, we've reduced the 3 years to a shorter period of time. So if there is adverse activity and a record of that, instead of coming back in 3 years, it would come back in 2 years or 1 year. And it gives a little bit shorter test period to confirm that there isn't adverse impacts. So I would throw that on the table, you know, for the commission's consideration. But I think I'm flowing a little bit more with the consensus that this is a fairly active commercial area. There's a lot of ambient noise from the highway and from the surf. It's you know, it's right on PCH. To me, this is and I think where we've often found higher sensitivity is when it's not a detached home, where it is an attached unit in a condominium building or an own your own, where activity walking up and down a hallway or walking, you know, directly adjacent to other units, you have a much more intimate kind of noise impact and traffic impact. Whereas I think in the past, we've been more comfortable with single family homes because there isn't that kind of condition. So I would be supportive, but I would be interested in the commission's thoughts on a shorter test period before it comes back.
What are you suggesting?
I would suggest it be a 1 year. And then if it's successful after 1 year after that, it could go to 3.
And then it just goes, that's just administrative with the city.
Yeah, it'd be administrative with the city. It wouldn't necessarily have to come back unless there's a record of multiple complaints. And then at that point, the staff could determine that it needs to come back to the commission.
Yeah, that's baked into the resolution?
Well, I don't know that it is, because I think my observation historically is there can be multiple complaints and still nothing really happens.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
I mean, but, you know, what are we supposed to do with that? Just, you know, say code enforcement is not useful. Are we supposed to say that and then change, you know, the resolution because there is no code enforcement?
I wouldn't be that would not be my position making this suggestion. I would be silent on the effectiveness of code enforcement and just say that
No, I don't think we have to say that, but I'm just saying in our discussion, is that we're preemptively that.
We're just saying that there's a shorter period of time for the staff to determine whether or not this is in fact a nuisance and then reconsider the reapplication.
And Chair, if I may, I believe the condition that you are referring to is, I don't have it verbatim, but it's something to the effect of, within 1 year, the Director of Community Development will review the history of complaints and on that basis determine if the permit shall be referred back to the Planning Commission. And then that ties in with your condition number 35 in the draft resolution before you, which is a mechanism by which the matter could be returned to the Planning Commission for a noticed public hearing, and the commission could require either immediate compliance with conditions of approval, amendment of the conditions of approval, or proceed with revocation proceedings.
That sounds good. How do we know that that really happens after a year? I mean, what is the mechanism that makes sure that the staff actually goes through that evaluation?
Probably does require an element of trust of your city staff. We will be sure to put it on our calendars.
Yeah, so so you do have a mechanism. You put it on your calendar and it
That is
pops
correct,
up and
Chair.
everybody jumps to attention. And,
Yes,
yeah,
I
okay.
think,
we have done that before.
I think part of it would also be based on, is the PD getting complaints, or is there people fight,
That's the whole idea, is if there's
That's
no
what I'm saying.
complaints, then after a year, it
just continues
just
on?
continues, yeah.
Yeah.
If there's a raft of complaints, then all of a sudden a red flare goes up.
So I don't know that we need to add a condition. It
So
sounds
I
like
think we have to add a condition that is not an existing condition in this finding.
Correct. No, I believe what Mr. Planning Manager was discussing, actually, excuse me, that's not your title anymore. I apologize, is that we would add it to that condition.
Yeah, we do have to
35.
add that. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
I would be okay with that in a condition. However, I feel more as though the regular 3-year period for this particular application would be adequate. We received a few correspondence from people who apparently don't live immediately adjacent to the property and, didn't take the time to come down here to make it further clear that they're in opposition to it. So and for what the reasons already stated, the fact that it's right on Coast Highway and all that, the noise of that, and between a couple of commercial properties, the way it is, I don't know. I don't know why we'd be singling this one out.
I agree. I mean, I think adding that condition to the resolution is fine, but I wouldn't shorten the length of the CUP.
Right. So we're sticking with this.
A review condition.
Yeah.
Yes, the 1-year review. So do we have
That provides some better meat than, code enforcement.
do we have 3 commissioners that support the 1-year review component?
I'm good with that, as long as, we're not restricting this application to 1 year. It's still a 3-year period with a 1-year review.
That's what it is. That's the
That-
definition.
I'm fine with that.
I'm fine with that.
Like we're singling out this short-term lodging.
Yeah, some of the stuff, I feel as though I'm kind of sensing that, the general thing about, should short-term lodging be allowed anywhere, and that's not what we're,
Well, we're not,
doing here
and we're not
tonight.
challenging that it be short-term lodging. We have a express sensitivity from the neighborhood and from one of our commissioners that there is concern about the impact on the neighborhood. And so on the table is a suggestion of how to address that concern.
and I'm fine with that.
You're okay with that?
I'm okay with the suggested resolution, added 1-year review period.
Yeah,
I guess it just, again.
I'll go along with the majority, but I feel as though this submission is being singled out. There are no immediate neighbors who are complaining.
Right.
There are no immediate neighbors. This is in an incredibly busy area, incredibly noisy. And, it's just gotten exponentially worse over the last 5 years.
Yeah, though it is busy, but in my comment, when I can't make the findings, it's because the way this works is, this is on Coast Highway, and whoever's staying there is going to be going down in that area into the where the residences are. Even though this is on Coast Highway and it is commercial, as a practical matter, if there's problems and if there's a bad visitor, and I think the 1 year is fine. I don't think it does anything.
Yeah.
If one incident in the residences.
Well,
and
can we
this-
clarify that? Because I understand the neighborhood differently than
Yeah.
what you just said.
Yeah.
My understanding of the neighborhood is that there really isn't any way for one of these visitors to wander down between the houses to get to the beach, that they really have to walk down the alley and down to a public street to access the beach. Is that not the case?
That's correct.
Well, isn't it, you have Coast Highway, you're in the back, you walk around one side and you're in Tiamo's parking lot. Then you can walk the other way and be on Seacrest.
Yeah, so to
No,
get to
there's
the
a-
beach, you have to go down and walk and do Seacrest, right? You don't walk between the houses. I don't think.
No,
it's-
but you're
that's-
walking, my point is you're having short-term residences.
It's a public street, right?
Agreed, but
Okay.
they're in your neighborhood. Agreed.
Okay.
Yeah.
But is 3 years the standard condition, Anthony?
It is, yes.
I'm going to stick with the standard condition.
Well, and I don't think the proposal changes that. It's still
But
3
you're
years.
saying
We're saying there's just.
back in a year?
We're just saying there's an administrative review in a year to see if there's a whole bunch of complaints. That's all we're saying.
But again, I'm kind of with Susan on the, are we going to do this on everyone from here on forward?
I would say if there's a sensitivity in the neighborhood, then
Well,
yeah. we could-
somebody's always going to claim a sensitivity. I mean, here we got people who are just probably don't want short-term lodging in this zone at all. And
Let's-
so
let's-
they're,
let's
they're,
have-
they're,
let's
you
have
know, they
somebody-
have every right to make that point and make, make that statement, but it doesn't mean that we necessarily have to then say that, oh, that's a significant, somebody has raised the issue of a significant adverse impact, and now we must take an extra step and single this one out more than others, when this one is less impactful for many reasons than others that we have seen.
And by the way, Ken, if the someone who raised the significant impact is me, I'm not worried about significant impact. I'm just worried that there is an impact. I look at this as, yes, it's commercial and yes, it's between two buildings, but I think as a practical matter, it's no different than if this were residential and we wouldn't give short-term lodging for residential.
Well, I suggest we
That's-
put
that's
this.
the way I look at
I
it.
suggest we put this to rest by somebody making a motion.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, I mean, the consensus is to do this, so I think.
Well, I'm not sure it is. So somebody make a motion one way or the other and then we'll vote.
well, the reality is if we just left it with the 3-year term, if there is complaints, that's going to come back to us through staff anyways at some point. And if there's no complaints, then, we don't need to use staff time to have some kind of formal review at the end of a year. It seems like, we do have a code enforcement mechanism. And, I don't think there's going to be, 15 different people renting this place every single month. I just think that, if he has 2 or 3, that would be a lot. And obviously in the winter months, there may be nobody for a month, so I just think, we could leave it as is, and let, our code enforcement mechanism work as it's, theoretically supposed to. It doesn't always go that way, but if at the end of a year, if staff came back and said, but you remember that property in South Coast Highway, we've had 15 complaints, then that would be a time to do something about it. But I think, I want to consider staff time too, if they have to put a date on a calendar to, make a formal review, it's going to use their time. And but I do want to say, I feel like over the, in the past years that we have asked for certain projects that may have a little more public input or concern to have some kind of a review at a period of time, and usually a year, or I think we've even done some stuff at 6 months, not necessarily relating to short-term rentals, but we have conditioned other types of projects to have a review in a shorter period of time than the time period allotted to the project. So I just think we do have code enforcement. We do have a police department that can, somebody can file a complaint with, if they're jumping over a fence or, doing something that's impactful to the neighbors there. But I don't know that we need, if everybody wants to do it, I'm okay with that. If that's, what it will take to get this through. But
I think right now I'm the only one that wants to
Sounds
do
like-
it.
yeah, sounds
So
like- sounds like we have-
I think somebody
sounds
should
like
make
we
a
have three of us.
motion.
I'll
without it.
let me try.
Make a motion without it, and then
see what
All right,
happens.
I'll move that the planning commission adopt a resolution approving conditional use permit 25-1369 and finding said action exempt from CEQA, as outlined in the staff report, with the removal of policy 6.1 and policy 6.6 from the conditional use permit review portion of the resolution.
Second.
roll call, please.
Commissioner Sadler,
Yes.
Commissioner Whiten,
Yes.
Commissioner Dubin,
Yes.
Chair Pro Tem Goldman,
No.
Chair Kellenberg.
Yes. Okay. That ends our public hearings for the evening. Do we have any further business from the staff?
There's no further business, Chair.
Are there any questions or further business from the commission?
I had a question of staff. I believe I missed it, but we had recently approved, and I believe it occurred sometime in June. There was the one-day concert that we had approved
Oh,
in the
that's right.
canyon, the Laguna Delic or whatever. Did staff ever get any feedback at all regarding that? Were there any complaints regarding noise?
So the
Was it-
concert occurred.
I'm not sure. I think I was out of town because I don't remember hearing anything about it.
It did occur.
Yeah.
Were you there?
No, not my.
Were there complaints from the neighborhood?
I'm not aware of anything of note. It seems to have gone over generally well. I'm not saying that there were no complaints, that everyone is entirely happy with the festival, but I certainly am not aware of any concerning complaints that would give staff pause if this or
'Cause that-
similar request remained
Because I
in
know
the
the city
future.
council is going through this whole thing now with the festival bowl, with considering, having more concerts there and actually going to do, I guess, some test case concerts, I believe later this
We're
summer.
doing one in
fall.
November.
Okay, in November, and, which I thought, well, here they just did one. Why, wasn't that kind of a test case? And was there any kind of negative impacts? And it sounds like, as far as staff knows, that no significant ones.
I
at
think the
least.
negative impact was that it wasn't very successful.
Oh,
Oh, really? Well, I was curious because there was a concert on North Coast Highway next to Royal Hawaiian that was very successful.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it was a
That was Wilbo Fest.
it was a mosh pit, magnificent, but I don't remember that coming in front of us and needing a permit. So why did one require one and that one not?
They are considered case by case. The code does allow the director the discretion to approve a temporary event that's 5 days or less at the staff level. They are all taken case by case. We do consider the facts of the matter and make a decision accordingly. Now, if we regret that decision, we may take a different posture should the request return for future years. But my understanding is that both events were relatively incident-free at a minimum. I haven't looked into the code enforcement records or calls for service to the police department for either music festival, but my impression based on lack of complaints that were brought to my attention is that both were.
And it could be just the one on North Coast Highway was smaller. It was a smaller space and maybe there were fewer people and that was the basis for.
Did it have anything to do with the one in the canyon was on city property and the other one was on private property?
That would not have necessarily disqualified the Canyon event from being processed through a director level application
Okay.
process.
Okay.
Well, I'll tell you, the one in North Coast was really successful and everybody sure had a lot of fun.
Hmm.
Okay, are there any other items from the commission?
Just a quick update on the fire station. It did, as you know, got appealed, and Coastal Commission staff did not find any significant issue with it. And it's supposed to be heard in front of the commission, I think mid-month, this month, Coastal Commission. And meeting with Tom next week, because I have a giant box of material samples that I've been collecting for the last month and a half, and to kind of kind of narrow them down a little bit, because I've got way more than what should be presented, I think, but anyways.
There was an additional request for a change in our hearing on that, a modification, I think, to some small building massing modification that I think staff was going to review. Did that occur?
Chair, I think you may be referring to a condition that requires the building to be moved 5 feet to the north with one small.
No, it was a much more it was a smaller corner modification to the gym or the restrooms or something.
Oh, I think they moved the electrical door that was sort of positioned close to the restroom doors, further towards Coast Highway.
I was just curious if that occurred and staff found the change acceptable.
I don't
I'm seeing a blank
specifically
look on your
recall.
face, so that I assume we don't know. Okay.
And Chair and Commissioner Dubin, I just want to follow up quickly. Your statement about the Coastal Commission, accurate. I just want to be sure everyone understands the kind of the process. Like us, Coastal Commission staff simply drafts a staff report. You are 100% accurate. That staff report is recommending a finding of no substantial issue. Their process is probably a bit more, I would say, a bit more iterative than ours, in that public comments start coming in. So once again, as of right now, that is the staff recommendation. I'm going to knock on wood and not jinx it. There has been times where that has been flipped. There's nothing to indicate that that's going to be the case here, but I just want to be sure of you and any members of the public that are watching. So the staff report as drafted, Commissioner Dubin, you're 100% right. Coastal Commission staff is recommending to the Coastal Commission to find no substantial issue on either of those appeals.
Would somebody like to make a motion to adjourn? To the next hearing date is?
That would be August 20th.
I move that the Planning Commission adjourn to our next regularly scheduled meeting on August 20th at 6 p.m.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Do I have a roll call?
Commissioner Sadler?
Yes.
Commissioner Whiten?
Yeah.
Commissioner Dubin?
Yes.
Chair Pro Tem Goldman?
Yes.
Chair Kellenberg?
Absolutely. I've officially adjourned this planning commission meeting. I do, right across